Friend Y up in Syracuse.com. I am Matt Perino, and I'm joined today by Jacob Klinger from PennLive.com. He covers the Pittsburgh Steelers. And these two football teams, the Buffalo Bills and the Steelers, are going to meet on Sunday Night Football. We were just talking about it before we started. This is the first Sunday night game for the Bills in doing the math here, 12 years. 2007 is the last one, and this is going to be the third one for the Steelers this season, Jacob?
Yeah, I think they opened against the Patriots on Sunday night. Duck Hodges' first start was against the Chargers on Sunday night, and this will be the third. And they've been on Monday Night Football a couple times too.
Yeah, so the Bills did play on Thanksgiving, so they got that big prime time national game out of the way. But in this game, it's got a lot of playoff implications, not only for the Bills, but the Steelers, who are fighting with the Tennessee Titans, kind of gaining some steam here in the second half of the season. But I want to start where, I think all Bills fans are kind of, have their questions, and it is with this offense for the Steelers, going up against the number 3 ranked defense in the Bills. Duck Hodges, what can you tell us about him? Is this five-game sample size indicative of what is going to be to come, or is this something where maybe he's had some success early on that the production might taper off a little bit?
So I actually think he can get better in the long term. It's just a matter of how much of a runway he's going to have down the road, whether that be here or elsewhere. But I think he's made some very, very NFL throws, and I know that's kind of a trite thing to say, but a few times a game and increasingly lately, he goes out there and lets go a pass that makes you pause and think that he could do this for quite a while. And so I think he will. But, I mean, that being said, there have also been a couple throws a game, especially recently, where if something happens a half second differently, it's probably 6 points the other way. I'm thinking about that last offensive drive against the Cardinals. They very easily could have cost themselves the game right then and there. Or set themselves up to anyway. So I suspect the Bills' defense will have ample opportunities to punish Hodges and the Steelers in general. And I think they're probably the best suited team to do so that he's faced so far.
Right, and it's something where this Bills defense is third in the league in yards and third in the league against the pass. But it's something where I tweeted about it today. They're not turning the ball over at the rate that they were a season ago. They ended last season ranked 8th in the league in turnovers. This year they're at 17th. And I think that's just an area of the game that, is probably just waiting to, for things to kind of change a little bit in that department. And this could be a week against an inexperienced quarterback where that kind of happens. So weapons-wise, obviously James Washington has had a couple good games. Deontay Johnson is a guy that I think a lot of fantasy owners have been kind of paying attention to this season. Where do things stand with Juju Smith-Schuster and this offense in general? I mean, who are the playmakers that the Bills are going to have to focus on?
So for Juju, he was supposed to talk to the media today, but after practice, he did not. He had been a full participant in practice on Wednesday. He was limited today. So things are not headed in the right direction for Juju, but that doesn't mean that he won't play. And I think with his case, certainly more so than with James Conner, who has also been out since week 11, there's more utility in dressing a less than 100% Juju than there is with Conner, where the Steelers already have 4 active roster running backs besides him. So I think, you mentioned Deontay Johnson. I think he's the next most likely of the receivers to be involved. Not just because he had a good game against the Cardinals, but because his sort of short space quickness lends itself more to setting up the screen game, whereas James Washington is, an occasional downfield threat and can increasingly do some things over the middle, but it will be harder to design plays to free him up. That's kind of my read of that situation, but it's going to be decidedly ugly and potentially the kind of game that reminds everyone, why the NFL doesn't look like it did 20, 30, 40 years ago.
Good point. In terms of this defense for the Steelers, I mean, they've obviously gained a lot of notoriety with the way that they've played, particularly after the acquisition of Minkah Fitzpatrick. But I think a lot of fans know about Minkah Fitzpatrick, what he's doing. They're leading the league in turnovers and getting the quarterback with T.J. Watt and company. Who are some of the guys that are kind of making things go for this Pittsburgh Steelers defense that maybe fans don't know about?
They should know about Bud Dupree. He's having a breakout season. He was a first-round pick back in 2015, and he's on 9.5 sacks. Him and Watt are actually threatening the sack records of the two outside linebackers that last took the Steelers to the Super Bowl, and that was James Harrison and Lamar Woodley. So, yeah, they should be looking out for him. They should be looking out for Vince Williams in specific packages. He's mostly played as the more traditional of the inside linebackers in the team's sort of three-man rotation with Mark Barron and Devin Bush, but they'll bring him on to stop the run. They'll also dial him up to blitz. So he's potentially dangerous there as well. Steven Nelson is also having quietly a very good season. I say quietly because he has been so good at what he's doing that most of the time teams won't throw at him, whereas quarterbacks seem to have been more inclined to take their chances with Joe Hayden. With limited success, he's had several interceptions this year as well. I think he's on 4. So there's not a lot of – I mean, there are no weaknesses in this defense. And in fact, there's plenty of X factors to be found as well.
Finally, before I let you get out of here, you've been in the locker room the last 2 days, been paying attention on social media all week within the fan base, the Steelers fan base. Where are things sitting in Pittsburgh right now going into this game? And, what are things maybe being said about the Bills or concerns or anything that noteworthy from the week that going into this game from a Pittsburgh Steelers perspective?
Okay, so on the outside of the locker room, from like a fan base wise, they haven't really settled on what the branding is, but Devlin Duck Hodges is extremely popular. You'll probably see some Steelers fans in duck hats and bringing duck calls or making duck calls of their own on Sunday. I think this is actually just his second home game as a starter. So it'll be interesting to see how they sort of close the home season here at Heinz Field. Within the team itself, Mike Tomlin made a point after the last game, which was that the team has been able to come back to where it is because it's had to take things one game at a time. I know he and others have been accused of looking ahead in the past. I don't tend to buy into either end of that narrative. But look, the Bills are the best team the Steelers have played in a while. And it's understood that there's no margin for error, and there hasn't been for months with this team. And, Tomlin, to his credit, when he dials up the hype machine internally in terms of saying things like, this is a 5-star matchup, which he has done this week, the players do tend to listen to him and they do tend to respond. So, I expect nothing less than that on Sunday night. It doesn't mean the offense will be good, but it does mean that everyone will have each other's attention.
Mm-hmm. And when you say Mike said that it's a 5-star matchup, is that something like internally he told the team or he said it at his press conference?
He started saying it at his press conference, as I understand it, after the game on Sunday. I think he repeated it in the locker room. And I want to say he said so again on Tuesday. But the point is no one is sleeping on the Bills. And they shouldn't, They're 9-3. 9-4, sorry. Yeah, 9-4.
Yes, 9-4.
9-4.
And Bills Mafia is going to love hearing that they're a 5-star matchup, but with expectations or that respect comes the, internal, long-suffering struggles of this franchise. So it is going to be another big national TV game. They did pretty good 2 weeks ago, but this is a place that I believe they haven't won in Pittsburgh since the 90s. I don't have the stat off the top of my head. So it's going to be a fun one. Thank you so much for coming on with me, Jacob. You can follow him on Twitter. He covers the Steelers for PennLive.com. He's at Jacob_Klinger_. And he does a great job over on the beat over there. I've retweeted a few of his things this week, and I will continue to do so up until game time. And I will come and buy you a coffee in the press box on Sunday night for coming on with me today. I appreciate it, my man.
You're too kind.